Got Panda King isopods? Want to know how to look after them? Watch this video for some great tips. Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I am David and today we are talking about Panda King isopods. Now Panda Kings are an absolutely adorable species of isopod. They're also one of the easier Cubaris species to look after. So in this video I'm going to give you a basically care guide for them so you know everything you need to know to look after them. Now if you're interested, I have a whole series of care guides on various types of isopods, so please do check out that playlist on the channel. Put a little example right now so you can explore other types of isopods you may be interested in looking after. So to start off with, let's talk about Panda Kings in general. Now Panda Kings are a type of Cubaris isopod, and if you know that type of isopod, you know that the rubber ducky belongs to that family. They're very cute. The whole way their sort of body structured makes them look cute. They have this like cute little face and they're very interactive and interesting when you do get to see them, which we'll talk a bit about later. Why they were named Panda Kings, I'm not sure why Panda Kings, but the panda part of it comes from the black and white patterning they have. Generally, as a species, they are the easiest Cubaris species to look after, although Cubaris as a general rule are a little bit tougher than other species of isopod. From a pet perspective, if you are interested in getting into Cubaris species, Panda Kings are a great place to start, and they're a lot more forgiving than other types like the rubber ducky or the shark variants, etc. It is worth starting with them because they will forgive a lot more husbandry mistakes that the others will not. So let's start off with the Cubaris enclosure. When we're talking about enclosure, we want a decent size here. When I'm talking about decent size, I feel that depth is much more important than width for these guys, which is kind of unusual, so a lot of them do need a bit more width. They do love to burrow, they will go down into the damp soil looking for moisture, even for food, etc. So you need that depth here. So if you're considering an enclosure for them, depending on your colony size, make sure there's plenty of depth of substrate. We're talking about at least 10 centimeters or approximately 3 to 4 inches, preferably more than that, so there is more. Again, it will depend on your colony size. We have a colony of 20 and I keep them in an enclosure which is approximately 15 centimeters by 10 by 15. One of those basically like Exoterra ones, and they're very happy in it. If the colony was larger, obviously you'll have to multiply that. There's a great product by Entoscapes called a Critter Keeper. There's a link in the description below, not sponsored or anything, which is a great sort of generalised enclosure for isopods, which gives them plenty of space if you have larger colonies. Or as I said, Exoterras, they're sort of standard faunariums, are quite good for most isopod species, but remember, it's important to have that depth. So as for how you set up the enclosure, again, that depth of substrate is going to be really important. Make sure you have some sphagnum moss or some sort of moss on one side of it to hold moisture in there. You want plenty of places for them to hide because they do love to hide and you won't see them as much, especially initially. You want some enrichment on there, some things for them to crawl over. You want your cuttlefish in there to provide a calcium source, and then you can sort of theme it to however you like. When I initially got mine, I themed them around pandas and I had little bamboo shoots and stuff. It's up to you and your imagination, and don't forget to have lots of leaf litter and just generally stuff for them to enjoy and hide in, because most isopod species benefit from this kind of enclosure setup. With regards to temperature and humidity, temperature-wise, they need a little bit warmer than other isopod species I've found to thrive, but it's not that big of a deal. As long as your room temperature, which is about 21 to 25 Celsius, they're going to be completely happy in that. Humidity, they are going to need a bit more of it. These guys do thrive in high humidity environments, so you need to keep that humidity quite high. You need to provide them a very steep moisture gradient, so you want your sort of like hydration station, as Russell from Aquarium Max Pets coined the phrase, on one side, and then you want a pretty damp environment from all the way maybe 75% damp and maybe 25% dry is best for them. And they do benefit from a lot of moisture, so don't be afraid to give a little bit extra occasionally. You can monitor their behaviour and where they are, and that will give you a good idea. You don't want to be absolutely waterlogged, but you do want some moisture and plenty of moisture in there with just a little bit of dry place. They have an option to go there. Cork bark makes a great thing for them to crawl on top of when it's a bit too moist as well, and all my isopods benefit from that too. But yes, nice and decent room temperature and keep it nice and damp. They will thrive in that damp environment. I already touched on this, but enrichment wise, make sure you provide the cork bark, places to hide, maybe some dead wood, lots of leaves, and then things to crawl on. You know, this sort of stuff that's standard for isopods. They don't need lots of enrichment because basically the stuff you have to provide them provides the enrichment for them, but they do benefit from lots of that sort of stuff, because I find the more enriching the environment is for them, the more enriching it is for us to view them and see them thrive in it. What they eat, Standard sort of isopod diet, you want lots of dead leaf litter in there, you want some maybe rotten wood, you want a nice rich decent substrate in there, you just want to supplement that with a little bit of a calcium source. You can provide fish food as well, they love that, and I found mine love a bit of vegetables once in a while. I tend to provide them the offcuts where we get from the parrots, sometimes a bit of pepper, a bit of courgette, they love cucumber, carrot, any sort of vegetables will generally be fine for them as long as you're not doing it constantly. They will like the moisture from the vegetables too. This is a sort of diet they'll have, and as long as you're providing plenty of leaf litter and stuff, they'll have their basics covered at the very least. Now just to round off some general information about breeding, because these guys will breed successfully, a lot more successfully than other Cubaris species, although they are very slow to grow. We've already had a lot of breeding going on with ours, and it's just adorable seeing the babies crawl around. With a caveat for this, again, this is a bit of information I got elsewhere which just really stood at the test of time with our isopods. Sometimes it's better to have a slightly smaller enclosure. When I'm talking about small, I'm talking about width again, like I mentioned earlier, but lots of depth. And my Cubaris have really benefited from a smaller enclosure. Before I had them in something slightly larger, then I downgraded it to the size example I gave earlier, and they've been breeding and they've been thriving in that a lot more, because I forget who actually said it, but they said when the enclosure's smaller, they're less inclined to explore and more inclined to just breed and get on with their business. They're not trying to bulk up, survive in the environment. They feel they've got their environment pretty much nailed. And obviously once you get a bigger colony, you can upgrade it. As general information for husbandry around them, keep that moisture high, provide that calcium source, do supplement their diet a little bit because they seem to enjoy a bit of fish food, and have some springtails in there to keep the substrate nice and clean. Because it's a bit more moist, you are going to see a bit more mold growth in there. So if you have some springtails in there to keep it clean, you're going to see a lot less problems with that too. Now, there are loads of Cubaris species out there, and this one is one of the best places to start because they're a little bit more active. You will see them a little bit more, although they are shy, and that is something you're going to have to get used to with Cubaris. Try not to disturb them too much, but once in a while, lifting up their cork bark, taking a peek, taking some photos is completely fine as long as you're not doing it constantly. I have loads of isopods guides on this channel, loads of other invertebrate content, so please do like, subscribe, and watch everything else because I hope you enjoy it, and I'd like to keep seeing the channel grow. Any comments, questions, love to hear them, but in the meantime, take care and see you later.